What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another weather forecast. In this video, we're going to be continuing talking about Eta. Even though it has made land on Central America, we're going to be talking about it potentially posing a threat not only for Cuba, but possibly for the United States as well. Mainly, the biggest chance is Florida. So, Eta could put the end to Florida's quiet season. They have not gotten a direct hit by a tropical storm or above at all this year. Their closest call was Isaias and Sally, which made landfall miles away from the Florida border. So I mean, it's been a normal season with Florida getting 5 hits and zero for Florida, unless you can count the tropical depression that became Sally. But it's looking like it could hit portions of the western coast of Florida or even the southeastern coast. It's not exactly 100% sure. The National Hurricane Center and a few models have been shifting westward, while some global models have been shifting eastward. So it's kind of putting that split end through Florida. But the biggest chance, in my opinion, is for a western coast landfall between the Tampa area, Big Bend, Naples. The general western coast should be on high alert, while portions of the eastern coast and southern coast, including the Keys and Miami, you guys should continue to keep a close eye on it, as it could continue to shift eastward or westward, but it's still days out. So this is going to be very brief, not going to be too many details. But without further ado, look in the video. So here's look now at the National Hurricane Center, and Eta is at 40 miles an hour now. So they do expect, of course, that the National Hurricane Center to get to a tropical depression, and then it's going to be a post-tropical depression by the time it comes down the western Caribbean, and then the National Hurricane Center expected to become back to a tropical storm for a Cuba landfall, and then even possibly a Florida landfall. So there it is at 999 millibars, and still moving at 7 miles an hour now, going westward. So it's about to start doing that sharp northeastern turn, where it's going to come out around Belize and Honduras border there. Let's go and check it now at satellite imagery here, and as you do see, that low pressure is really scattered all over the place right now. It's really opened, but yeah, there's a lot of scattered cloud cover here. It's very hard to see, but let's go. It's going to be a lot easier to actually check it out on satellite imagery there on visible high resolution, if that will load there. Let's see if it actually loads. But the convection has died down rapidly, and where that low pressure is, we actually don't really have any convection whatsoever. That low pressure is around this general area. It's a bit more into Honduras right now, and I can see there we have that cloud cover right there. So the low pressure is pretty opened up. We have more convection to the east of that convection, and we do have some of that convection as well, higher amounts of convection to the west. So the low pressure is pretty much opened up with some slight cloud cover, but really the most convection is to the east and to the west of this low pressure, and that's where it is right there. So that's basically what we have in satellite imagery right now. It's not too interesting or anything, but here is the National Hurricane Center. This is the latest update here at, I believe, 4 o'clock. So it was the latest update on the National Hurricane Center. As you see, they show it becoming a post-tropical depression by tomorrow early afternoon to late morning, and then coming out by midnight tomorrow by Friday. Well, actually, yeah, by that time, so 12 p.m. tomorrow, becoming a post-tropical depression, then by midnight on Friday, so right the first hour on Friday, then it comes out into C, and the National Hurricane Center then expects it now to go slightly now northeastward, as it's heading for Cuba near the Havana area in the western Cuba region at a tropical storm. And as you do see, the National Hurricane Center does have it actually making a landfall for Key West, but avoiding inland or mainland Florida. So avoiding the Everglades areas, avoiding Miami, avoiding Homestead, and avoiding Naples. But since this track does leave the northeastern quadrant for Florida, then that means the worst conditions could still be in effect for some areas like the Key West, Naples area, since that northeastern quadrant will be inland. So it may not make a direct landfall in those areas based on the National Hurricane Center, but there is still going to expect some really harsh conditions, and and maybe even the worst conditions as they are expected based on this cone or this track to be on the northeastern quadrant. What I mean by a western shift is yesterday the National Hurricane Center was getting a track like this. That's what the National Hurricane Center is showing. They are actually showing it making landfall over Miami, Florida. And now, ever since yesterday, we've had a more westward shift. At first, it was like this early this morning, and now they have it avoiding inland Florida completely and only hitting parts of the Keys and all the way to Key West. So at the tip of the Keys, so barely even hitting Florida itself. So we will continue to watch if it continues to do that westward trend, maybe going to avoid the Key West. But still, no matter if it makes landfall or not in mainland Florida, southwestern Florida, and southern Florida will still get very harsh impacts, including some gusty winds over 40 miles an hour to maybe 60 miles an hour and extremely heavy rain. And the worst of it right now could be for Naples, Key West, and maybe even some really heavy rain near the Tampa area as well. Miami, areas on the East Coast, West Palm Beach, Hollywood, Fort Lauderdale. You guys were expecting the actual landfall up until today, or up until last night, as it continues to do a western shift here. So this is actually what they're predicting to get the National Hurricane Center wind-wise. As you do see, they expect it to possibly be 50 miles an hour by Saturday afternoon and making landfall at a 60 mile an hour tropical storm. And then they have it coming out near Havana at 60 miles an hour and crossing the western coast of Florida at 60 miles an hour. So they actually have it being very, very weak. So as of now, the National Hurricane Center has it avoiding hurricane strength up to the point where it stops right here. So if it does do this track like this, that'll probably leave it for maybe a panhandle landfall or a Alabama landfall, and that'll give it a lot of water time in the Gulf of Mexico. To probably give it at least a good amount of time to make it get to a hurricane. So could this become a hurricane? If it does attract the National Hurricane Center showing, then very well, it could become a hurricane if it avoids mainland Florida and only hits Cuba and Key West, and then goes possibly either towards Alabama or can possibly maybe go like this. Not much data on that, but here is the general cone here, based on the track guidance from the tip to the east to the furthest to the west. So this is a real cone that the National Hurricane Center has. This is just a cone following the tips of each really intensity model or track guidance. But yeah, you do see we still have a few models actually having it get into inland Florida, such as a good amount of models actually. It's not like all of them are showing it not hitting Florida. We actually have the majority out of the track guidance is actually having it for eastern Florida, or sorry, not eastern Florida, but inland Florida. But they're keeping it actually still more to the west than yesterday it had. As you see, the Hawaiian model has it going the far eastward up into the point where it makes landfall in West Palm Beach. The Avian takes it far east as well, all the way up to the big island of the Bahamas and making it landfall there near Fort Lauderdale. Obviously, as well, the HMNI, it's also showing a landfall near Hollywood as well, or Fort Lauderdale. And then we also have the TVGX and the TVCN making landfall in Homestead. So it's really still a little bit more to the west compared to yesterday, because models, or including the National Hurricane Center, were leading it that way. But as you still see to the west of this mark, we still have all of these models right here. So still a westward shift, even though they still show an inland landfall. So anything really east of Homestead is what they expected yesterday. So anything west of Homestead, still a western shift compared to yesterday here. So basically that's the tracks for intensity. We only have two models getting into a hurricane, and that is the CTCI and the SHIP. Let's go and see what those models show for the track. Let's see, CTCI actually has to do a weird track. They have it going like this, and then they have it going like that. And that's actually somewhat what the European showed yesterday. I'm not sure exactly what they showed today, but the European was also showing something like that. So that's one of the models that are showing a hurricane. And then I believe with a SHIP as well. The SHIP if I can find it. I don't know if it's actually the same color or not. Well, I actually can't find the ship. That's unfortunate. It's probably just, being rushed right now. But really, those are the only two models getting to a Category 1. But the majority have it between 55 miles an hour and 65 miles an hour. But like I said, if it does a National Hurricane Center cone or even more westward, avoiding mainland Florida, it'll have a better chance to increase in probability to become a Category 1. But that'll obviously be way later, up to the point into early next week here, obviously not at all this week. It's going to be a long track storm like I've been saying. And what I've been saying is that the best chance for it to become a hurricane is doing the National Hurricane Center cone or even more westward. That's because, so this one's running right here, and this is what the National Hurricane Center is showing, calling it kind of like this, and then it stops. I'm not going to really draw an arrow even further more, because I don't know what the National Hurricane Center is going to keep on going. I'm going off the National Hurricane Center at the moment, and then I'll go off what I think could happen. So as you see, this is exactly why I think this is why this has a better chance to become a hurricane, because you see it's going to go through 29 to 30 degrees Celsius waters between Belize and Cuba. The thing is, it won't become a hurricane before Cuba because it's going to be moving so fast. And then if it does not go into mainland Florida, that means it'll have obviously 27 and 28 degrees Celsius waters, even 26, all the way up to the point of right here. Which, if it's going to be 60 miles an hour right here, it only needs 15 to get to right here. I think that's a really great probability here as well. But if it does, let's see what let's, for example, see the GFS or CMC, for example, when they go like that, obviously, it's going to make landfall before it becomes a hurricane. Because if it's going to be 60 miles an hour right here, that means it's going to make landfall 60 miles an hour. And that means no chance to become a hurricane. Obviously, it's going to be over land. But it's going to come out into the Gulf of Mexico, but it's probably going to come out the Gulf of Mexico at maybe 55, 50 miles an hour since it made landfall, so it's going to weaken. And then there's no way it'll strengthen enough to get to a hurricane, especially in those cold waters, 25 and 26 degrees in the northern Gulf. Even if there's some spotty 27, 28, it won't strengthen 25 or even 20 miles an hour in that general region in the Gulf, with it making landfall so soon once again, either in the Panhandle or maybe even Alabama. So let's do a good look now at the few global models are still showing it actually hitting the east coast of Florida. Obviously, there's still a very, very good chance it'll hit Florida, but just not the east coast like models have been showing for the past 2 days, not including today. That's including yesterday, which was obviously Tuesday, and then Monday as well, which they were heading for Miami, Fort Lauderdale, even West Palm Beach and Jupiter. But now, for the past really just under the past 24 hours, models have been kind of gearing to either like a direct hit near the southern coast and the Everglades or the west coast, whether it's Naples all the way up into the Panhandle in the Gulf of Mexico. So really, the Gulf Coast has a better chance than the East Coast there. Obviously, the Gulf of Mexico is part of the Atlantic, but they like to call it the Gulf Coast, and they got the East Coast right there. So the GFS in the next 6 hours, they have it dropping 4 millibars at 1,003. And they have it coming out in an additional 18 hours here. 30 hours. And coming out by November 6th there. So coming out really late out of the Central America region. By Friday, they have it there 36 hours in the middle of the Western Caribbean at 1,004 millibars. And then they have it strengthening up all the way up down here to the far eastern tip of Cuba. I just do not see that happening at all. I mean, really all the way down here, I don't think it's going to go like that. I mean, I don't see it going like this, really. I think the best possibility is that it makes landfall probably, let's see, either here. Actually, you can't even see that color, can you? Let's see, either here or here is where I think the best probability where it makes landfall on Cuba. Not here. I do not see that whatsoever, but obviously that is my opinion. And the GFS shows it whether I like it or not. But there it is. And it makes landfall on the big island of the Bahamas. Strength is at 989 millibars. And then it makes landfall at 983 millibars in Key West. So yeah, that's a really weird turn. I mean, and not only is the GFS having it still avoiding the mainland Florida now, this is actually the 18Z. I've actually not seen the 18Z yet. So now even the GFS is showing it avoiding mainland Florida. Look at that. It's only hitting the Key West or the Keys. Look, as you see, it's going to avoid still, not touching at all mainland Florida, only hitting the Keys, mainly Key West. But not only do they show it avoiding mainland Florida, they having it turning back south to past Cuba again, and heading straight for Central America again. I mean, that would be one of the weirdest tracks I've ever seen in my life, because this storm has had nothing but a weird track here. So obviously, it's gonna go like that. And it's gonna straight down into Central America, and then it's gonna go like this, and then based on the GFS, it's gonna go like this. Then that, then that. I mean, that is a just absolutely just crazy track. So even now the GFS is showing it missing mainland Florida, but not even hitting western Florida at all, just the Keys, and then going straight down past Cuba again, so making a second landfall. I don't think I've ever seen heard of a system that's hit Cuba twice this way, where it goes up this way and then goes back again. That would obviously be devastating for Cuba because the amount of rain and the winds it'll get. And look, that's over 2 feet of rain for the Keys and Cuba. Obviously now let's actually now go back to the global model. So let's check out the CMC. This is now the CMC, still 12Z, not 18Z. So this one I've actually seen what it looks like there. As you see there, they have it making landfall as well super far east at 1,002 millibars, and they show it making landfall on mainland Florida there near Homestead. Very weak, at 998 millibars. Basically, that's actually really weak tropical storm. The icon also, I've seen what it shows. Like, it also shows making landfall on mainland Florida, but at the strongest, really at 979 millibars. Last time I checked there, or last time I heard, yep, 979 millibars. So I see. I mean, it's really weird. These tracks and the strain difference here, and then also the H4. This one is a hurricane model. It's at 985 millibar landfall for Cuba, and they show it making landfall in the eastern coast of Florida there, near the West Palm Beach area, and even near the Jupiter area. So, I mean, there's just a variety of tracks and possibilities, which is good. We have plenty of time to find out what's going to happen. So if you're in Florida, Cuba, Bahamas, I would just keep the close call.